everyone. Today we are going to explore how to use show versus tell at the word level in your slam poem to engage your audience as much as possible. We want to avoid simply stating emotions, actions, and opinions, and we want to write with specific details. This video is going to walk through some examples of how to do this. We'll call it Editing and Fine-Tuning 101. Notice on this slide how there are 3 statements in red. The first 2 are simple statements of emotion, and the last is an opinion. This is what I see really commonly in student slam poetry drafts. But I want you to notice how making simple changes at the word level can transform the poem, making it memorable and specific. First, instead of saying sits scared, the writer uses one word, coward, that is more specific than the word sit. And you know what? It's a better word because it has the connotations of fear and intimidation, but it doesn't say it directly. We also have added the detail of where this boy is. He is in his chair. This allows the listener to picture a boy shrinking down, trying to hide in his classroom seat. Next, I want you to consider how a simple comparison conveys that the boy is intimidated and that the teacher is frightening looking without saying it directly. Instead, the writer is allowing the listener to picture this teacher who is powerful like a horse and is somehow being restrained. That's a scary sight. As you focus on word level showing, think about choosing just the right word. Think about the connotations of words. Do they convey the tone or emotion you're going for? Do they sound like what you're describing? Like sticky taffy sounds like sticky taffy? You might also choose a word because it repeats a certain consonant or vowel sounds, or creates an imperfect rhyme with another word surrounding it. Here's another example of how you can fine-tune your draft at the word level. Again, in red, we have a simple statement of an action, jamming out, and an emotion, enjoyment. Notice in the green how the music is personified and the simile takes over with the actions of marching, firing, detonating. All words that are explosive, insistent, just like that music that is taking over. Now this is showing versus just saying the generic little statements in red. Here's an example written by a student that does a really good job of showing versus telling at the word level and even at the stylistic level. I want you to hit pause and read it over. And I want you to notice how the words in red up to the right, that's an example of the draft that this poem grew out of. Instead of saying the opinions that this writer had, which was he didn't want to work a typical 9-to-5 job because that was boring and he didn't want to play by somebody else's rules and feel like he hadn't really lived his life, he challenged himself to use imagery. Even in that one word gray, it shows kind of the tone that he associates with that 9-to-5 job and that idea of wasting away. And notice as you read through all the specifics that he's added, he still has those opinions, but he is being more specific in stating those opinions. Like, I don't want to live in a world where I hate my alarm. And then he builds on that and he says more than just that simple opinion. He says, where my smile is as fake as if I was drawing it on and my whole world revolves around me getting a check. And he keeps going and going and going. And there's some style there with the and. And he pushes himself with using that repetition to keep giving more and more and more details to justify that opinion that he has. And then he has this stanza at the end that sort of sums it up and pushes him to the next section of his poem, which isn't pictured here, which is what he does want. So this last section is he doesn't want to be a pencil pusher. Got some alliteration there. Behind a cubicle, stuck in a groove. As me and my cuticles, got some nice rhyme going there between cubicle and cuticles, and some great imagery, straight as a ruler. Here's another example. Notice again in the red how this is kind of about beauty standards, and this writer had the experience of her friend kind of struggling with this idea that she needed to be perfect. And she was seeing her friend and not understanding why her friend couldn't see her as she saw her. So again, hit the pause button and read through and notice how far the draft came between the red version and what you're seeing in black there. All right, in our last example here, again in the red, you will get the opinions of this writer, that she is not your typical girl and she kind of questions convention. You can see that if you read the copy off to the left, which I hope you'll hit pause and do, that this sort of drips with personality, and we get a sense of who she is through her words and even how she is kind of describing Antonio from gym class in kind of a funny looking way and using dialogue. And then she pushes to kind of the next section, which has a bunch of questions and like, maybe I'm this or maybe I'm this, and who respects you for this. And she kind of has that zinger at the end. After 3 weeks, nobody cares, not even People magazine. So through this, she's able to be memorable and get the audience to really think about the stereotypical ideas associated with being a girl and what girls should do and what girls should want. And we are more willing to listen to her because she's getting through to us with humor and with all of these specific words. So to start your revision process and kind of your final editing process, here's a quick slide to show you some suggestions for how you can fine tune at the word level. You might take a look at first your verbs, and you don't necessarily have to highlight them all in blue, but really work on making those verbs sensory, like the example of the boy just sitting versus cowering. And then I want you to look at your nouns, and I want you to work on really making them specific and concrete. And also I want you to think about your style and try to add in comparison or thought devices such as metaphor, simile, personification, symbol, or even allusion. In addition, I want you to do one final sweep through to see if you still have any simply stated emotions or actions or opinions that haven't been fully fleshed out. And if that's the case and you're more like the writer in red here, I want you to take some time to think of how you can make that come alive for your listener, whether that be through dialogue or a specific comparison, or just spending a few lines on something to really show what you mean, like this first example here. So thank you for listening. I hope that this has challenged you to do some basic editing to your poem to make it come to life through word level showing. Happy writing.